Hey, what's up guys, it's Ronald here. So this video is going to unpack CBS's 60-minute program in which they discussed white genocide, farmers in this country, and also the refugee program that's on offer. Now, I'm going to give commentary on just the issues that I found in the 60-minute segment. Now, ironically, if you actually watch this segment, it actually makes the case for why white South Africans and minorities in this country deserve to get refugee status in the United States. So indirectly, I think this segment worked against CBS and the intended purpose of what they tried to do. But even in this segment that is supposed to feature investigative journalism and be 100% accurate, still has a lot of flaws in it, and I will unpack it right now. Let's have a look.
But there is one group of refugees the Trump administration is welcoming. It's expediting the resettlement of white South Africans, mostly Afrikaners, who are descendants of Dutch settlers.
So right there, it's already the very first lie. Within the first 1 minute of this segment, 60 Minutes is already lying to you, because this program is not only open to white people or Afrikaners. This refugee program is open to minorities in this country, which includes colored people, Indian people, and also minority groups within the black culture themselves. There has been black South Africans that have taken up this refugee offer and is currently living in the United States. So a blatant lie within the first minute by 60 Minutes. Go figure.
Excuse me, turn the lights down.
President Trump showed several videos, proof the White House said of the violence targeting white farmers.
These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers.
We found the spot where those white crosses were once planted. It's a lonely, potholed road not far from Darrell.
Notice how there wasn't any potholes in the original video, and then look at the state of this road right now, which just clearly shows decay and the government not caring to actually improve the roads. But I mean, once again, this is not what they tried to illustrate, but this is indirectly what they showed the entire world.
Ranch.
It definitely wasn't a burial site. I mean, those crosses were there for less than 48 hours. It was purely an avenue of crosses that we planted there in honor of commercial farmers in South Africa that had lost their lives.
Brown knows about the crosses because he...
Look at the state of the road. I mean, compare that road to the one that you saw when 60 Minutes went there.
Put them there on the day of his friends Glenn and Vita Rafferty's funeral. He keeps them locked in a shed. In 2024, he brought them out again for the funeral of his best friend, Tolly Nell, who was also murdered on his farm.
I mean, the irony that they're trying to make the point that it's not a burial site, and obviously Donald Trump misspoke. It's not a burial site, but it was a place in which they planted the crosses to show how many farmers have been killed in South Africa. So whether it is an actual burial site or whether it's to indicate how many farmers have been murdered, I think that it is quite clear that the president misspoke, and now 60 Minutes is just trying to prove some weird point. But whilst they do that, they are interviewing somebody who was brutally attacked and who lost friends and family members due to being on a farm and being killed on that farm. So once again, well done 60 Minutes on proving the claims made by President Donald Trump.
Tolly's wife, Renee, still lives there. Her husband was killed in front of her trying to fight off burglars. Her son, Tienes, was tied up while they stole cash and guns. No one has been arrested. Johan Kotza is an Afrikaner who's head of South Africa's largest agricultural organization.
It's actually not about white genocide, it's about criminality in South Africa.
That's what's happening on farms, it's what's happening in streets in Johannesburg and other major cities. It's crime.
It's crime. The fact that it happened on a farm doesn't make me special as a farmer. It's horrendous. Any murder is horrendous.
So, to all the farmers out there that's represented by this man, I mean, congratulations. This person doesn't seem to think that per capita is a thing. Because you can hear the argument, oh, it's just crime. You know, crime is just, there's 60 to 70 murders a day in this country. It's just crime, right? Why doesn't CBS do some actual investigative journalism? Why don't they look at the per capita rate? Because that will answer all the questions. In South Africa, the per capita murder rate is 45 per 100,000. That is the average South African, right? 45 people per 100,000 are murdered in this country. Now, if you had to look at what you would say is probably the most dangerous job in South Africa, you would look at a police officer, somebody that implements the law and upholds the law in this country. Now, if you look at their murder rate per 100,000, it moves up to 60. Now, farmers in this country per capita is 75 per 100,000. That means being a farmer in this country is more dangerous than being a police officer. Why don't they tell you that? Why do they tell you, oh, it's just normal crime, when they go to a farm and brutally murder people without stealing anything? It's just normal crime. When they write with their blood on the walls, kill the boer, no, it's just normal crime. To everybody that's represented by this individual as a part of their farm union or whatever, like farmers union, I would highly recommend you perhaps look at getting somebody else, because this person isn't fighting for your interests, that's for sure.
South Africa remains one of the world's most economically unequal countries. 44% of blacks here live in poverty compared to 1% of whites.
So just on that, I mean, why don't you mention the fact that it's been 31 years since the dawn of our democracy? So the fact that so many black people still live in poverty, who's to blame for that? Is it white people? Is it apartheid? Or is it a failure by the ANC government over 3 decades to put policies in place to improve the lives of all South Africans? So I'm not sure why this statistic is important when we are talking about murder. Talking about poverty is related how? Are you trying to say that poor people kill? Because that is an insult to poor people in this country. It's a really cock argument to use.
South Africa's 2.7 million Afrikaners descend from Dutch settlers who arrived on the continent 400 years ago.
Yeah, also French Huguenots and Germans as well. But who cares about all the facts, right?
Every year they celebrate their culture and language in the shadow of the Voortrekker Monument, which was built as a symbol of Afrikaner nationalism.
No, it was not built as a symbolism for Afrikaner nationalism. If you did, once again, the most basic of research, the Voortrekker Monument was built because of a covenant between the Afrikaner people and God that was made in 1838 at the Battle of Blood River. In that battle, before the battle, they prayed and they said that, God, if you help us through this and you allow us as a culture to remain relevant and still live on, then what we will do is forever on this date, we will celebrate the vow and we will build a monument in your honor, which is exactly what they did. And that is what the Voortrekker Monument represents, not the bullshit that you just came up with. But once again, why would you expect accurate reporting from a woke leftist organization?
Are there large-scale killings of farmers, and is the government seizing land?
It is not happening. Donald Trump was fed this information.
Do you have any proof of that? Seriously, I mean, from all the people that they could use, they decided to use this idiot over here. I mean, you know, is so clearly biased. Like, why don't you get the right people to speak to? And I'm not even referring to right as in right-leaning. I'm talking about the correct people to speak with. This individual right here hates the fact that he's Afrikaans. And he is one of the people that penned the letter saying, "Not in our name." Thinking that he speaks on behalf of the most South Afrikaners in this country, when so many people rejected the nonsense that he wrote. And then we found out later that it was actually, to an extent, government funded, because somebody within DIRCO is the one that actually penned this letter and then asked people to sign it. So once again, 60 Minutes is not doing their own research. CBS is not caring about the facts because they are interviewing him when he is involved in a scandal already with regards to writing an anti-Afrikaner document.
Farm murders, genocide, there is no such a thing.
So just on that, right, what I would like to understand is, if you look at Gregory Stanton's stages of genocide, and if you go and look at with the most neutral frame of mind as a South African, and you go and check the stages and you tick behind everyone how far realistically we are, then it is 8 out of the 10 stages, and 9 if you are looking at it from an Afrikaner right-leaning perspective. So what I need to understand now is that we are at stage 8, arguably stage 9 out of the 10 on Gregory Stanton's stages of genocide. So are we as Afrikaners only allowed to say that it's a genocide when a genocide has taken place? Is that how it works? So all across the world, you are not allowed to bring attention to a genocide that's going to take place. You're only allowed to talk about it after it's taken place. So despite the fact that we are on stage 8-9 out of 10, we should not mention it. We can only mention it after there's a mass killing of Afrikaners in this country. Please make it make sense.
Are you the victim of unjust discrimination?
I've never been discriminated against.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, that is why he is so vocal, because he hasn't experienced it. Now, therefore, it means that no Afrikaner has experienced it. I mean, did you see how he laughed when he said that he has never experienced discrimination? Well, it's because he's the mouthpiece for the ANC. He's the mouthpiece for mainstream media in this country. So, of course, because it didn't affect him, now he assumes that it hasn't affected any Afrikaner out there. Even though we, to this day, have 147 race-based laws that discriminate against you purely because of the color of your skin. And if you don't believe me, go to racelaw.co.za. I'll post it in the description below so you can go and have a look there. And then please tell me whether or not that those 147 race-based laws, whether that is discrimination or not. Because for some reason, this idiot over here has never ever been discriminated against, and therefore that means that, there's never ever been discrimination against white people. This is exactly what we are talking about when we talk about people that live in this little bubble, and because things don't happen to them, they think it doesn't happen to anybody else. Typical.
I'm a loud-mouthed citizen because I'm a journalist. So I express myself very strongly, also against this inept, corrupt government.
Yeah, well, inept, corrupt government, but the one that you keep on praising every single time. Once again, the fact that something didn't happen to you doesn't mean that it hasn't happened to anybody else that shares your race or your cultural belief. And the fact that you are always so prominent in standing up and speaking on behalf of people when you clearly don't have the lived experiences of these people is why so many people absolutely hate your guts.
Are white farmers being killed for their land?
Yes, I believe so.
Is there a white genocide going on in South Africa?
We've never used...
You see, the fact that you have to break it down to this point where it's like, is a white genocide taking place? No, it's not. But we are at stage 8-9 out of 10. So can we only call it a white genocide when there are a mass killing of people? Should we not bring attention to the world and say, per capita, the most dangerous profession to be in South Africa is a farmer? the most dangerous thing you can be in South Africa is a farmer, not a police officer. No, a farmer. Make it make sense.
The term white genocide. We're saying there are tortures, people are being murdered. We are seeing a call for genocide.
Shoot to kill!
Yeah.
The call for genocide Creel is talking about is this song.
Kill the poor! The farmer!
Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer, which President Trump played a video of in the Oval Office in May. In the 1980s and 90s, it was sung at protests against apartheid and is still used at rallies by the man singing, Julius Malema, a race-baiting opposition politician who wants the government to seize white-owned land.
Yeah, I mean, the first factual thing that they've actually said in this documentary, ironically, look how they just brush over this quickly and don't talk about the amount of people in that stadium that is singing this song. And then they also try and brush it away as, oh, it's a struggle song, you know, like just like the Concord did, just like mainstream media does in South Africa. It's like this guy is literally singing songs about killing people based on their culture or their racial group, and that is just brushed over. But God forbid anybody says there's a white genocide in this country, then every single camera is like this close to your face asking you why you are lying. But when it comes to scrutinizing and investigating that song, why it's being sung, and how there can be a relation between farmers and that song being sung, then it's like, oh no, it's a struggle song. Let's move on quickly. Let's move on.
The first group of 59 Afrikaner refugees arrived in May. Now, almost 2,000 are here. Did you ever imagine that virtually the only group of refugees going to be allowed in the U.S. would be white Afrikaners?
That shows up the complete absurdity of this Afrikaner refugee thing. Because they're saying these white Afrikaner refugees, their lives are more important than the bona fide refugees from everywhere else in the world that wants to come there. They're saying white lives are worth more than other lives.
The fact, once again, that they end the video exactly in the same way that they started it, by telling a blatant lie. If you go and look at the executive order by Donald Trump, and if you go to the website of the United States government where this refugee program is offered, you can see that this program is open to minority groups in this country. White people, colored people, Indian people, and of course some black individuals that form part of minority cultural groups within the black cultures that we have. So the fact that they blatantly lie that this is only open for Afrikaners should already allow you to just disregard the entire 60-minute segment on this. The fact that they lied to you in the very first minute and then they lied to you at the end of it should allow you to look at this and go, well, this is not neutral reporting. Because if you can lie to me based on a document that I can go and look at and see this is not only open for Afrikaners or white people, but in actual fact, for anybody that wants to leave this country because of persecution that they are facing, then why should it not happen? And why do people take this 60-minute interview seriously? I highly recommend that you inform people about how wrong this segment is. You don't have to use this video, but if you'd like to share this video with your friends and family, that'll be greatly appreciated, because I think it's important that you don't just listen to, firstly, the guests that 60-minute wanted that will drive their narrative, but also based on the blatant lies and the lack of context that they are providing. And this is why so many people don't trust mainstream media anymore, because you have a golden opportunity to just tell the truth. But instead, you'd rather drive an anti-Donald Trump narrative because that is what your audience in the United States will look at. But of course, this video will be shared across the world and also in South Africa. And then this creates a narrative for the anti-Afrikaners and anti-white brigade like the EFF and Umkhonto we Sizwe, so that they can drive this narrative that, oh, it's Afrikaners that are playing the victim. When in actual fact, you need to look at the laws of this country, and you will see that there are 147 race-based laws that discriminate against people because of the color of their skin. And then you look at Gregory Stanton's stages of genocide. And by the way, Gregory Stanton's Stages of Genocide is respected all across the world, and it has predicted many genocides that have taken place. And the fact that his own Stages of Genocide says that we are at stage 8 to stage 9 tells you that why are people making such a big story about this, especially if you look at the per capita rate of people being murdered in this country. The most dangerous thing in this country to be is not a police officer, it's a farmer. Where else in the world is being a farmer the most dangerous profession? In actual fact, not even the most dangerous. Where in the world is being a farmer a dangerous profession? Except in South Africa. And instead of asking that question, they rather want to drive the narrative that, oh, it's just crime, it's just murder. You know, it's not just white people, it's not just Afrikaners. No, it's just people. The 67 murders a day, it's normal crime. It's not targeting Afrikaners or targeting farmers. No, it's just, you see, instead of them focusing on why being a farmer in this country is more dangerous than being a police officer, or why so many white South Africans want to leave this country, including colored people and including Indians and a small minority of black people. And of course, instead of getting respectable people in the field that can give you the stats like Ernst Roots, Ernst van Zyl, so many other people. I mean, at least to their credit, they did have Kali Kriel on there. But to just get somebody like Max de Pre, who has been a vocal supporter of the ANC, and as much as he says that the ANC is corrupt and all these things, if you look, he's always the one that is pro this new dispensation that we've got and always against anybody that speaks negatively about it. So instead of getting a neutral point of view, they get Max de Pre, like I said earlier in this video, that was one of the people that penned that controversial letter, Not in Our Name, that's proven to be a Durko psyop. They use him, and now that is their credible sources. And then avoiding so many people in this country that they could have spoken to that has a lot more skin in the game. But this is why nobody trusts mainstream media anymore. And this narrative's not going to fly. Because previously, 10, 15, 20 years ago, people would be able to watch 60 Minutes and believe, okay, well, that's factual. We trust the investigative journalists. We trust the organization itself, which is CBS. But these days, with the internet and with alternative media, you can actually get this information that is accurate and not biased and against Donald Trump or driving a narrative, because it's quite clear here that 60 Minutes and CBS has got an issue with Donald Trump and with Republicans in the United States. So now they going after truly innocent people and victims because they hate Donald Trump. It's these type of narratives as to why people don't trust mainstream media anymore. So you can trust alternative media to give you the information, and if you doubt anything that I'm saying, then fact check me. Fact check on whether or not what I said in this video, whether it's correct or not. Starting by the per capita murder rate of farmers, checking racelaw.co.za and corresponding it to yourself and verifying it, and then also checking out Gregory Stanton's Stages of Genocide, and then looking at the different stages and doing your own thing where you tick on whether or not it has met that stages requirement. And then once you see that, you will conclude that this 60 Minutes interview is nothing more than just a crock of shit, once again to drive a narrative that is anti-Afrikaner, anti-white, and clearly anti-Republican and anti-Donald Trump. And it's shameful for them to drive this narrative when all the evidence is there for anybody to find. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It's absolutely free, and the overwhelming majority of you that regularly watch my content aren't subscribed. Also, please share this video far and wide so that it can just create a counter narrative to the narrative that's being driven by 60 Minutes and CBS. Share it on the WhatsApp group, share it on your social media, and let's get the word out there that they're talking absolute cuck. Lastly, please be sure to consider becoming a member to this channel. That is where you financially support me and this channel. It'll cost you R39.99 a month. And like I said, it's in support of me and this channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. And that's all I got to say, everybody. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
You Highway Massacre. You don't even know me, but everybody see you say Highway Massacre. Highway Massacre. You don't even know me, but everybody see you say Highway Massacre.